So before I start this video, I must say that I am not a copyright expert. I've had a copyright strike.
We'll talk about that.
It's dark down here. It's quite Hello YouTube, welcome back to my channel. If this is the first time you've been here, my name is Ian J. Cole and my channel is all about music and art. But this video is about this stuff because I've just had my first YouTube copyright strike. I was in breach of copyright, but there is a story behind it. Back in June of this year, which was 2019, Hull had a new music biennial, which is where they had a weekend of free music. You had to apply for tickets, but a weekend of free music, and it was absolutely brilliant. And I thought it'd be a really good idea to give people a flavour of what the weekend was like. So we went to as many shows as possible, and we videoed, and I put that content up on YouTube, knowing full well that in some cases some of it would be in breach of copyright. But I then went through the process of trying to contact all of the performers, and that's where I fell foul of one performer. Now we put up I think we put up something like 20 videos. One performer has complained and has rather than talk to us directly and just reply to my email and say we'd prefer you to take the content down, which I would have been quite happy to do. This particular group just contacted YouTube with a copyright takedown notice. Now a copyright takedown notice automatically gives you your YouTube channel a copyright strike. There are 3 ways to deal with a YouTube copyright strike. Now this has changed over the years, but certainly 2019, this is how it happens. Copyright strike, 3 things you can do. One is you can dispute the claim. If you don't think that the copyright claim is correct, or you can't see where the copyright infringement actually is, or you want to contest it as fair use, and I'll come back to fair use, you can dispute the claim. That's not what I did. You can ask the copyright holder to have the claim removed. I would have preferred to have had a conversation with the copyright holder, but that wasn't the case. The third option is to go to what YouTube call copyright school, and you have to do this. And that copyright claim will stay on your account for 3 months. So my copyright claim will disappear in November 2019. If you have 2 more copyright claims within that period, you will automatically have your YouTube account wiped, cleaned. It'll disappear. So all of your videos that you've got up, if it's monetized, the monetization thing will disappear, everything will go, the account will be closed. So what I've actually done in this case, because I haven't heard back, I've heard back from some people from the new music biennial performances, but not everybody. I've taken the decision to take all of it off YouTube, and what will happen is it will become available online once the copyright holders have agreed to have the content up there. So over time these videos may or may not come back onto YouTube. What will happen is that there will be some reviews of those performances. Okay, so we might not be able to show the performance, but we'll certainly be able to talk about it and do that type of thing. there is a belief that you can use 30 seconds of music or video before a copyright infringement would appear. That's complete rubbish. That just doesn't exist. So whether it's 3 seconds, 5 seconds, 2 minutes, 2 hours, it, in theory is all potentially a copyright infringement if you don't own the copyright. Now, there have been quite a lot of criticism of YouTube about this particular subject. And if I just refer to my trusty iPad, so this content is actually coming from Wikipedia. And it's specifically about copyright infringements and copyright strike. Now, YouTube's reasoning for policing this is it complies with the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. Now, the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, being here in the UK, that isn't part of our law. That's part of the United States law from 1998. And because YouTube is parent company is American, that's clearly where YouTube are coming from. Now, I don't know whether we have something in the UK which is similar, this is where the business of copyright gets particularly grey, shall we say. So I am filming this. This piece of film, which I will put up on YouTube, belongs to me. It's my copyright. If I was to film another person, then I would have to ask their permission. I mean, I think technically in writing, but to ask their permission if it's okay for me to upload that content to YouTube. If they said no, then I wouldn't be able to use that content. So back to this business of fair use. According to, remember, we are dealing predominantly with the US law here as far as YouTube are concerned, but, and I'm just going to read this from Wikipedia, fair use is a legal rationale for reusing copyrighted content in a limited way, such as the discussion or critique of other media. Various YouTube creators reported receiving copyright strikes for using media in the context of fair use. One of the things that various YouTube creators have reported receiving copyright strikes on videos which are critical of corporate products. It claimed that a claim of copyright violation is actually a strategy to suppress criticism, which is an interesting point, really. If we are making a commentary or we are criticising content, then it may be that we can put small amounts of content up on to basically explain why we're critiquing something or what commentary we're making. This has been documented not on YouTube but actually in a blog that I wrote, and I'll put the links down below. 3 or 4 years ago I wrote a piece of music. I actually wrote it on a train. My wife was sat at the side of me. I then took it back to my studio, modified it and put it up on YouTube with a piece of video. Within minutes I had 2 copyright claims saying it was their content. Now, it clearly wasn't. I was using a sample-based synthesizer made by Korg, a Korg K-oscillator, and within the purchase of that synthesizer, those samples come as part of the package. They weren't. I couldn't take those samples out and put them something else. I could re-record them, which is exactly what I did do. So I was quite within my rights to create a piece of music using that piece of equipment. I contested that copyright claim, and there was 2 copyright claims. I contested both copyright claims, and it took months. Now, this is when my YouTube channel was monetized, because it's not now, because they changed the rules in 2018. But I used to get small amounts of money for adverts that were placed on my YouTube channel. So for those 6 months that it took to resolve that claim, and it was very difficult, I couldn't talk to anybody. It was clearly a YouTube algorithm that was dealing with this issue. So I put my case in writing, didn't hear anything, just got a confirmation of that, and then finally, after several months, both of these companies lifted their copyright claim. Now it's clear that I heard the piece of music that they said I had infringed, and it bear absolutely no resemblance to the piece of music that I had created. So clearly it is possible for YouTube to get this wrong. And now that's not the only time that that's happened. And because you're dealing with an algorithm is a computer generated program, clearly very sophisticated, but it can get it wrong. It's not a human being. If a person sat in a room and listened to this piece of music, you'd automatically realise that there was absolutely no connection with either. I hadn't stolen a piece of music. They were nothing like each other. The other thing that's happened is that I am the copyright holder for a piece of music on behalf of the actual songwriter, and it's a piece of music, and I've written an agreement with him to collect royalties on his behalf for a piece of music, a single that he put out in 1980, and it's called Come On You Ho.
Come on you ho, come on you ho, this is the early bird call.
This was several years ago. The gentleman has since died, but I'm still collecting royalties for his widow. And there was a video up on YouTube which had something like 30,000 views. We asked for it to be taken down. The complexities of just trying to get them to take that video down became ridiculous, really. So in the end we gave up. So his video is up there now with, I don't know, 50, 60 views or something like that, not many. But actually there is another video up there which he is earning no money from, and that to me doesn't seem very fair. One of the other things that happens, and it happens quite a lot with copyrighted material, is that I have something called the Audiophile Radio Show, which isn't normally on YouTube. Now what happens there is that usually if I play a song by a certain artist, and the radio show is predominantly about artists that either I like or I know, or they're from Yorkshire, so we focus on music that's in the vicinity of where I live. Now what happens there is, if I put that on YouTube, usually what happens is that I can't monetize it. I'm not monetizing the channel anyway, but adverts are put there, and the songwriters or their publishers will get a percentage of the ad revenue for me playing that song. Quite happy about that, really. Very occasionally, usually to do with Universal Music Group, who I tend to avoid. They're what are called, if you ever look at Rick Beato's done a series of videos, great guy, great channel. I think he's got his first million subscriber. It's a music channel, absolutely brilliant. He has done a whole several videos on the issues surrounding copyright and the fact of monetization. And he's got a bit of a thing about Universal Music Group, rightly so. They are what he calls blockers. Now a blocker is actually, they'll instantly take that content down. And I've fallen foul of this on one of the shows that I saw in my Edinburgh review series. So we saw 35, we put up 35 videos of the Edinburgh Fringe 2019, links down below. And one of them was a fantastic show, which I think we gave 4 stars to, a guy called Alexander Fox, Snare. Now, I reviewed Alexander's show. And what I did was I used a previous piece of video that he had up for a previous show that he'd done at Edinburgh Fringe, basically to show his skill level. That show was called Ringo, and that piece of footage had him playing drums to a Beatles song. Now that video, literally within 5 minutes of going up, was blocked. The music was blocked by Universal Group, which own EMI, which is where all the Beatles catalogue is. So the Beatles, or the publishers that own the rights to the Beatles music, will block that sort of content on YouTube. What I ended up doing was I ended up having to put basically chopping out that piece of footage of him playing drums. There's a bit at the end where he was just playing without any music, so I was able to do that. I also, on another video, was one of the shows that we didn't get to see was one of the walking tours of Edinburgh, where you wear headphones listening to music. Now in that video they had 3 or 4 tracks that were well-known music tracks, which I knew that I would probably get blocked by. So what I did do was I used their footage, but I actually replaced it with some copyright-free music to give a feel for how their show was. So you have to work around these sort of things. It's hard to know who is going to monetize, take the monetization for a particular piece of content. Which if I play something on the radio show, and I'm quite happy for the copyright holder or the publisher to have that, to make some money from that. My radio show is non-profit. But actually the way that some of these companies work, and then they're clearly not asking the Beatles that are left or the Beatles estate, they're not asking them whether it's okay for them to use this content. They're just blocking it, which seems rather draconian to me, really. To round things up, I was in breach of copyright. I hold my hand up to that. Should I have been given a strike? Well, it would have been nicer for the actual people involved to drop me an email and ask me to remove the content. I would have been happy to do that. There's a whole load of this tangled web of copyright issues, which I'm sure won't go away. A couple of things just before I finish. On a more positive note, thanks ever so much to my subscribers. I am now at just under 1,200 subscribers. We hit the magic 1,000 earlier last week, which is absolutely brilliant, and I appreciate it. Comment down below, share this video and all that sort of stuff if you find it useful. I have other series of videos. I'll be picking up my series of videos on how to start a record label in a couple of weeks' time, beginning of September. And if there's any sort of videos that you'd like me to cover and they're particularly about music and art, then let me know, and I'd love to have a go. Really, we hope to cover some more arts festivals and music festivals in the forthcoming months. Subscribe, because there's lots of really great content coming on. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate all the comments and everything else, and we are building a real community here. Just before I finish, couple of books. If you're interested in this, the thorny subject of copyright, now, and I am no expert in copyright, but there are a couple of really good books. One is this, which is Klein, Moss and Edwards' Understanding Copyright, Intellectual Properties in the Digital Age. So first came out in 2015, and this is the other one, which is the plain and simple guide to music publishing. So the copyright is covered as part of this. Now, there are two versions of this book. This is the UK version, and sometimes it has a red and white cover. This is just the actual book. So I've got the UK version. If you're based in the States, there is another version particularly for you. But it will help you through the thorny subject of music publishing, which copyright comes as part of that. And I'll see you in the next video. So take it easy. Thanks very much. Bye bye.